Welcome to 5-Star Weekly. Is this transfer window a failure or is it a win? We get into all that and more coming up. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Welcome to the show, 5-Star fam. I'm AJ, and this is Michael. And Atlanta United, of course, are off this week because of the crash out of Leagues Cup. But we do have the transfer window, and it's plenty of news. We'll get into all of that and the mailbag. But before we do, much love to our Patreon members. You guys are freaking legends. And yes, specifically Gavin, Jordan, Niall, Andrew, and Chris. You guys, yeah, just you guys keep us going, and we love you guys to death.
Yeah, and the Patreons just recently got to unbox and open a bunch of cards, Topps MLS cards and UCL cards, that we had, and we did a giveaway, and we got some pretty awesome cards that we gave away to our Patreon. So if you guys are interested in that kind of activity, we'll be doing more of those in the future. So sign up today.
Yeah, indeed. Some rare Gareth Bale and Erling Haaland cards that were very dope to see. And whether they want to keep them or eBay them, I mean, yeah, ain't too bad, ain't too shabby. But anyway, so let's get right into the news then. And so yes, the recently departed Caleb Wiley, he of course joined Chelsea. But now he's officially on loan to RC Strasbourg in the Ligue 1 Uber Eats. And yes, best of luck to him. But I think what was super cool was him getting onto, I believe, Good Morning America. And, with Gaga Solina and another Olympic player. During the Olympics, and it's just him being able to get on national television. It's just surreal. The kid from Morningside is just making his way not only on national television but around Europe now, and we're gonna be rooting for him, except for when he's playing for Chelsea, if he ever makes it to Chelsea. But just because I obviously am not a Chelsea fan, but yeah, so Wiley, just plaudits to him, and just the trajectory that he's on is insane. But speaking of former Five Stripes, well, there was a Fabrizio Romano rumor exclusive to him that, oh man, super duper annoying to see, because Charlotte FC, apparently, they were in London this past week to start talks for an ambitious move to bring our beloved Miguel Almiron back to MLS. And the initial approach was already made with Newcastle. Not an easy deal, but Charlotte FC was trying. 2 days left before the end of the transfer window. That saga was pretty short-lived because Charlotte had to leave the negotiations for Miggy. The deal collapsed and is off. And despite the initial agreement on contract terms, no agreement between clubs, as Newcastle request was too high for Charlotte FC. So interesting that Miguel Almiron was interested in coming back to MLS to a degree. And man, it's already painful to see Jose Martinez in other, uniforms and kits around, the East Coast. But now, if that had actually happened, man, the meltdown that Atlanta United fans would have had, it's just insane. I mean, the very fact that if it was possible for him to come back, I think it is very damning for this front office. But what are your initial thoughts of Miggy, Charlotte FC?
It would have been a horrible thing for Atlanta United fans, just hands down. It would, not only be detrimental to us playing against them, it would also highlight and embellish our shortcomings, especially in this transfer window. When you compare the two teams and what they have done, if Miguel went there, and with, as you know, looking at the clock now, pretty sure we're not going to sign anyone. I'm pretty sure one team would have done a heck of a lot better. So ended up not happening. So that's overall good for us. Because man, Miggy would instantly make any team in the MLS better, and probably make them a contender as well. Seeing him just scorch teams again would be fun to a degree when it was not against us, but yeah, it would be definitely far more bitter than sweet to see him back here and not in our jersey. On that point of whether or not we would want him back, a lot of people say, why would we have someone come backwards, to us and pay, through the teeth for it, kind of undoing all the work we did to get him signed off into Europe. And have him almost seeming to backtrack in his career. Yeah, I kind of see that to a degree. And so I would, for him, in my mind, I feel like maybe that would be 2 steps back going to MLS at this point in his career. I don't think he really should. I think he should stay in Europe if he can. Obviously, it's not entirely up to him. But, curious that he's entertaining the concept of coming to MLS at this stage. So I know maybe he just had such a good time here and they can pay a good amount, so I don't know. But Saudi Arabia was looking at him at one point, who knows. But at least for now, he's not coming to MLS and he's not going to light us up, and that's something I can be a little thankful for. But yeah, it would instantly make Charlotte our number one boogeyman, our number one villains, our arch nemesis going forward from here on out. If they took one of our Mount Rushmore players and turned them against us, and especially if he ended up creaming us too, man, that would be historically evil. Historic levels of villainy on Charlotte's point of view.
Yeah, and especially it's from a Miggy standpoint, it would be incredibly unwise of him, because it's I think at Lanús, at LA United, he probably has an incredible legendary standing with, both of those clubs. Newcastle, I think, has taken to him a bit. They, I think, realize how good of a guy he is, but at least in terms of performance, he's probably had one standout year, and then the rest of them probably not, pretty average or below average. Unfortunately, and yeah, he hasn't had the best time, unfortunately, at Newcastle. So it's definitely
needs to chirp some more, I think, right?
Yeah, and I mean, well, I think it's this for Miggy. It's some people pontificated as well. Where would he play if he maybe returned to LA United? And okay, yeah, you have Saba on the right wing, but he has played a little bit in some different areas, and obviously with Miranchuk in as well, him as the number 10, 2 left footers, pretty much the number 10 type, because Miggy played that more for us. He plays a little bit more right wing. Well, I mean, I think there's a little bit more interchangeability per se, but I think Miggy is still, you can shoehorn him in and he will do bits for you nonetheless. Yeah. And so
I think someone commented and said, you play Miggy wherever Miggy wants to play, I think is the answer.
Probably, yeah, in this league, exactly. And I think, if he was playing on the right wing, yeah, I mean, he could be cutting in, and Saba playing on the left, I think, yeah, still incredibly strong. I think it's possible. But it's just a matter of, that would definitely be that villain arc that I don't think it would be too wise for Miggy, because basically he would be persona non grata. I think I'm saying that correctly.
I think so.
It's like, that's just not wise. I mean, yeah, it seems like he did agree, at least on a contract, but super glad that it didn't.
He probably doesn't know where Charlotte is, too. So there's that.
There could be that.
Know that. I mean, like, instantaneous. I mean, if you want to make a real rivalry in MLS, that's one way to do it. That's for sure one way to do it. We would hate Charlotte from here on out.
Absolutely. And, it's not quite levels of, say, kind of Barcelona and Real Madrid, or Arsenal, Spurs, nothing like that. But I mean, it would turn up the temperature very quickly, and it would definitely change things in this league. So glad it didn't happen. But Miggy, saying it so, it's that's just not good stuff there. But speaking of, I'll just let you guys.
And also, I just want to say just real quick, sure. Charlotte went from almost having a phenomenal transfer window to having like an absolutely terrible one, where all of their targets seem to fall through. So
right. But it is the ambition, and they're going for it. And right. Speaking of that, I mean, they're doing quite well in the league right now, at least better than they ever have. And I mean, it just shows you that having a pedigreed head coach in Dean Smith, I mean, that 20%, that extra 20% in that Pareto rule, he's squeezing it out of these players that, I mean, largely are not that different from the past year. And I mean, it's just that much of a difference that can happen when you have a head coach that knows what he's doing, and then translate to this league. I mean, he's got pull. And so it's just something that, yes, even though Miggy is 30 and still could play in the in Europe, somewhere else, probably could still play in a non-top 5 league, but still, I mean, it's like that pull was something that could have happened. And I mean, it just speaks to Atlanta United if we made a decision on a head coach. But we'll get to that in a little bit in the news. But next bit, Fabrizio Romano all over the transfer market, as he does. But he reported that Atlanta United are close to signing AS Roma striker Eldor Shomurodov. And I butchered that, but I'm trying, guys. But negotiations ongoing with good chances to make it happen, at least at the time. And the 6'3", 29-year-old Uzbekistan international can play across the front 3 forward positions. And there were some reports, at least according to Stefano Gentili, who said that there wasn't a solution for Shomurodov, but in terms of that transfer window, they were pushing. Atlanta United was pushing for a loan. Roma wanted a permanent transfer, and for this guy who, I mean, if it was for a loan, I think it definitely makes some sense, because this player, I mean, okay, his strengths, I mean, he's definitely, in terms of size, in terms of him defensively able to contribute, it's definitely there. Pressing, energy-wise, pace-wise, pretty decent. Unfortunately, his finishing, not great. And as far as being a target forward, which at 6'3", you would hope, also not great. So, a guy that's, he's a little bit more plays against his type, which he's more of a counterattack threat versus, really a player that, looking at him, you'd be like, oh, yeah, this is a guy that, will want to play the ball to. He'll hold it up for us. He'll win a lot of headers. Not exactly that type of player. And so, okay, it might be a little bit the antithesis of maybe what we have in terms of strikers, as far as profile-wise, but not, obviously height. But it is this. It's, the goal return is subpar. He's never had more than 10 goals in a season. Yes, he's been playing in Europe. It might translate. Yes, you might have, kind of a Jose Martinez effect, but Jose Martinez was 24. He's 29 here. I mean, what do you think of this rumor? And, maybe kind of pontificate what Atlanta United are trying to do here. Yeah,
I mean, if they're going with a loan option, that's definitely the way to do it. It doesn't handcuff you to a long contract, and essentially what comes to a panic buy just to get someone in the door. That way it's just so much better. You can, let's say, get a guy in, get the job done, see out the rest of the season with a relatively competent striker who has good experience in Europe, and can help the team kind of get over the finish line to the playoffs, and then maybe do a little run. With the help of Miranchuk coming in, I think perhaps they thought that could maybe do something. So if that was the game plan, okay, I see that, because perhaps they don't want to get a DP9 in immediately right now because the coach is not solidified, and perhaps they're thinking the coach wants to have some influence about who they get as their new DP9. If that's the case, I'm all for that strategy, because I think that is probably best. It's probably, if you want, like you said, this Shomurodov is kind of doing what we already have all of our strikers do typically. It seems this is what Atlanta United always seems to want to do, is to have the big striker up top, do hold up play, can press and counter press, because he has stats that show that. You indicated some, there's also interceptions he has a lot of, and his passing is very good, and assisting is decent, but his goal scoring not so hot, like you said. So he kind of fits that semi-hybrid hold up / counter pressing type, and it's the team's not moving away from that. Much to, I know, your chagrin, you talk about often how we need to have kind of multiple kinds of knives in the drawer, instead of just one archetypal style of striker, because perhaps the need may arise in a game where another kind of striker might be more helpful. So in that regard, it seems like it's a little concerning to me that we're not perhaps expanding our view on what a possible strike for Atlanta United could look like. That's a little worrying. But as in terms of the financials and what kind of contract deal, if that was the proposal and it just didn't get accepted, at least you tried. I think it's a decent idea. Not just, as long as we're not doing a panic buy, a long contract where you get a DP9 and then all of a sudden they're butting heads with the coach because it's not exactly what they want. That would have been obviously detrimental and not the way to go. We've seen kind of that over the last several seasons, where new coaches come in, has players, and they kind of load up the roster, and then that coach leaves and another coach comes in and they're just like, what am I doing with these players? So we have a little bit more foresight this time around, which is good. Say what you want about the Miranchuk, I think just another piece of evidence about Atlanta United is not really going to change their style much, is that we are having another kind of traditional-ish 10. So the big hold-up striker, the traditional 10, build out the back seems to be the quote-unquote identity of what we're sticking with, and it seems to be something that it comes from the top down in terms of how we play from the front office. It seems to be what they are saying how the team should play. So I don't know if that'll change, if a new coach, a high, one with a really high level of experience, a high pedigree, if they come in and say nah, we should do things differently, maybe the front office might change a little bit, or entertain some differences. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see where they go with that. I know I touched on a lot of things relating to this, but I think it's all connected, and to kind of evaluate it in parts can be difficult when not looking at it as a whole.
Right. And I think I will try to touch on as many points as you made there, but it is that it's the panic buy. Obviously we didn't do the panic buy. While you're watching this, the transfer window probably passed us by and we didn't make a move, and besides Miranchuk. And I think the profile that we're going for here is what's worrying me, because Miranchuk, he's a creator. He needs finishers. Right now, our biggest problem is finishing this season, and we don't have the transitional inevitability that we need when we're playing that way. We need a finisher at the end of our moves to put the ball in the back of the net, and it's not happening. And this player is not the answer. He's not a finisher. He hasn't been a finisher in his entire career. So, if we're looking for a player that solves our problems or at least provides something different, I don't think this is the guy, because we have some guys that can run in behind-ish, but it's definitely more we need players that can put the ball in the back of the net. If you're not getting that from your striker, I mean, it's just, if he can link it up to the rest of the squad a little bit, well, I mean, Miranchuk isn't necessarily, at least from, his numbers across his career, a big-time goal scorer. And so we'd be relying on Silva, we'd be relying on Saba, and I mean, I think we've seen kind of the problems this year, is that, Saba, when on song, he's great. He can put the ball in the back of the net. Silva, to a lesser degree, same deal, but, much lesser degree. And I think this is the issue here, is that I think it's hard for a lot of fans to really see what the vision is, and especially when, coach-wise, identity-wise, playing style-wise, I mean, if we're trying to play out from the back, we just don't have the technicians in the back to be able to do it. I mean, Gregerson has shown a little bit of an ability, and I think his... in terms of what he does, his skill set to be able to kind of run the play from the back a bit and go on a walkabout here and there, that definitely does, at least when we're in possession, does make it a little bit more dangerous for us, and we can pin teams if we can have more technicians in the middle of the park. But yeah, I mean, those are the problems that we've had all season. When we try to keep the ball, we inevitably lose it in a really strange or inopportune position that we eventually get scored on. It's just, kind of the deja vu that we constantly see. And it's just not what I think fans want to really see. I think we need to build this team in phases where, okay, yes, we are trying to play with, kind of on the counter, a little bit more defensively. I think that's great. You start from the back. You create that really strong defense, and I think we've done that a little bit. But now we need to, from the next line with midfield, the next line with the forwards, figure out how to really link all these lines together and play the way that we want to play. And there's some teams that can do it a lot faster than we can, and I think that's the sign of a really, really good front office. And unfortunately, it seems like, there's something lacking in this front office, because, we have a war chest to play with. And what have we done? We've spent about 12 to 15 million on Miranchuk. Okay? What else? But, it is, it's that. It's like, the question is, did we do enough? Do you feel like we did enough?
I don't know if my answer will be satisfactory to people, but I want to say that, I mean, on the surface, no. Atlanta United wants to be, challenging, winning as much as they can, for playoffs, trophies, things like that. That's just obviously not going to happen this season. Maybe we'll squeak into the playoffs. I don't expect much. Tommy from Scarves Bike said earlier, I've written off the season a little bit. I'm a little bit on that boat right now. I think the appraisal of how Garth does in the off season, and with making the team more competitive is going to be a lot more interesting than what has gone on in this window. I think the issues of why we saw such a lackluster window. I mean, people talk about Miranchuk, and that's sure, maybe he'll be great and everything. Maybe he was really good, but still, remains to be seen. I think the reason why this transfer window was lackluster, anticlimactic, is because Garth had an idea coming in of what to do. He had Yorgos Yakimakis, Thiago Almada that he knew was going to move on soon. Just so happened to kind of move on at the same time that Yorgos gets a surprise offer from Cruz Azul, which is an offer you can't say no to, and Yorgos leaves. The guy who's supposed to be a franchise striker leaves. All of a sudden throws your plan to a bit of a tailspin. You can't just go back out and get a new striker because, what happened? Coach needs to be fired now. So you get a new coach. But wait, now you also need a DP9. The season's halfway over. You're floundering in what was like 9th place or whatever. I mean, why not get a number 10 that I guess can stitch things together regardless of what kind of team you have going on. And so that's kind of a safe purchase. Whereas a number 9 maybe is more of a, volatile purchase, more bit of a gamble, I guess is maybe what he's thinking. So he thought I'll hold off on it and try and go for loans like we were talking about earlier. And I think that was the right call, but it seems like it just never materialized. And that goes, that's a different conversation, but also an interesting one about why aren't we getting more interest from players? Why aren't we able to sway more players to come here? What is the difficulty of wanting to play for Atlanta United? It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes. It's like, we had all these great players, we've done well, we've won things, and now it's crickets because we aren't doing so hot. And the way to get out of that is to get some good players. So it's like kind of a vicious cycle. So like just getting back to this specific transfer window, I think that it's really that it's very banal in my estimation. It's not that like the front office is incompetent or anything like that. I think that slogged with bad contracts that they're still getting off books. The fact that Yorgos left and Thiago left, and Caleb left, all around the same time, and the coach left all around the same time, you have so much restructuring that part of it, you didn't anticipate having to do. And it forces you to then say, like Garth's famous 2 to 3 windows, I need 2 to 3 windows more. Perhaps it put him back some windows based on all that. And also, like I kind of got into for a second earlier, maybe perhaps the transfer market is not as lively and as fortuitous for him as he wanted it to be this time around. He likes to be active in the summer window. He looked around, perhaps the guys that he typically was trying to get aren't available, / when he approached them, he said he was talking to 15 or what have you. It just didn't materialize for one reason or another. And like I said, it's interesting to kind of find out why that is.
Yeah. And I think a large part of it is having a head coach, because I think we saw with Tata. I think there's pull. I think there is a massive thing that if you know what direction you're going and there's an identity and everyone can see it. I mean, that's why Dax McCarty came in last season, or this season rather, and he saw that there was something building here, and obviously it pretty much very quickly went to shit, but it is still very much that, if you get that momentum going, then yes, it's a lot easier to convince people of the project. But I think there's also this. I mean, it's, the lack of having a head coach definitely hurts. Talking to 15 players, that's a lot, and none of them except for one was convinced. That's pretty damning. And, you said we have a competent front office, but I think competent isn't good enough. We want, and the expectations from Arthur Blank, from what was said out there, is that we want to be a championship winning side. We want to win trophies, and right now we're nowhere close to winning a trophy, and I think that's the crux of it. And not only on top of that, but for fans, for the season ticket holders, which is a pretty important part of what the front office is trying to do to convince people to renew. I don't think they've convinced anybody of anything at the moment. Miranchuk could be a solid player. He could be a legend for us. Who knows? But the point is that it's not someone that moves the needle, unfortunately, that fans are like, oh wow, okay, yes, this is inspiring. I need to see this at the Benz. In no way.
Like you pointed out, Miranchuk by himself, not a team does he make, right? You need a goal scorer to match him, or at least a slew of goal scorers.
Yeah.
And I feel for him if he comes in the rest of the season and people start getting down on him because he's like, who the heck am I supposed to pass to? Like, I'm afraid he might get a sour taste in his mouth about his start here because of the way that we currently are playing. And that could be a detriment if he's a type of player who can be psychologically affected by that,
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see how he adjusts to this league, the travel, the fatigue, the playing every 3 days, and sometimes
the finding amazing and interesting new ways to lose games. That probably very much frustrates a lot of our players. That it's just like, okay, this week we solved this problem that we had last week. Oh, there's a new problem, and now we lost because of it. Okay, next week we'll solve that one, and then there's a new problem. Now we got to solve that one. And it's just. Yeah. I would, if I'm like, and I can see it in Dax McCarty's press conferences where he's just like, I'm losing my mind. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not what he signed up for. And that's really kind of the main point there. But so let's move on to the next bit of news. So a head coach rumor. So according to Fox Sports, Patrick Vieira, Arsenal legend. Yeah, he recently stepped down from his post with, conveniently enough, Strasbourg in France's Ligue 1. He has spoken to LA United about the vacancy, apparently. And so it reads like he reached out to us. Obviously, he's a former NYCFC coach as well, Nice. And it's, definitely in terms of Vieira, he coached NYCFC pretty well. Interestingly enough, his last game was against us at the Benz. And so I don't know if it made a lasting impression on him or something. But, definitely, I think he got the short end of the stick with Strasbourg and the whole kind of Chelsea system that they're trying to build. He basically got all the kids at Strasbourg. So definitely not exactly, where he can build something where, it's in his image. So I think that's interesting. I mean, maybe he's looking to come here to, obviously, it'd be a little bit of a reclamation a little bit, where he can, definitely maybe try to kind of impart his kind of, what he's trying to do, what his image is in terms of the football that he wants to play. But I mean, people are a little bit torn. He's not had the best record in every single place that he's coached, Crystal Palace as well. But I think he's gotten kind of a short end of the stick a little bit too in some of the places that he's coached. Not exactly the most patient, clubs and boards. But Patrick Vieira, from what you know of him, what do you think?
He took a pretty lousy New York City FC, and when they were even average, he took them to contender level. So that has something to say, That's a pretty interesting piece of evidence that I think you have to weigh because it's in MLS. It's for a team that was kind of struggling, kind of average, and then he kind of took them above that 20% threshold for sure. That's a bit of a bump that I think would definitely help us. And, he immediately has the attention of the players when he comes into the locker room because of, his legacy as a world footballer, world famous. So he has that. And he's still kind of carving out his legacy as a coach. Obviously it was mixed results. I heard it in Nice and Crystal Palace, it was rough goings. And at Strasbourg, like you said, it wasn't really in his hands. Those are all kind of so-and-so project type club. So, and I would consider us not as much as that, if, and this is all on the front office too. In a salary cap league, you have the ability to fix the wrongs that you have fairly quickly, and hopefully we do. And then Vieira would be able to take advantage of that, instead of being like, oh shoot, I got hired and I still have to be saddled with 3 years of this nonsense, and then of course that's why I lose every game. No, I don't think that will be the case. I think a lot of the wrongs will be righted, and he'll have a decent start if he comes here for next season with the new reinforcements, and hopefully have an influence on who we get as number 9. And with a guy like that, hopefully you get some pull in the international, community. Like, people are like, oh, I love Arsenal. I want to play. That was my team. I, love growing up or whatever. I want to go play for him or something like that. That could have some pull. That would be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, in terms of his tactics, I don't know much about him, about how he plays his teams. I think I heard someone use the word boring, but hey, if it wins, I don't really care. We said that about Frank de Boer. Still one of our better coaches we've had, all in all. So, another Crystal Palace alum coming in is, not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I mean, I did hear some people talk about also in the news media sphere about, wow, why are we aiming quote unquote so average as a manager? And I don't know. I mean, Garf is like, this is a guy, or we're looking for guys who, or anyone really, who has MLS experience, international world experience, and they can combine that to make a good team here and play well. So that guy hits all those, and I don't know if there's a lot of, like, in my mind, I'm like, I want to get like a world-renowned superstar coach. Obviously, it's Atlanta United. Of course I do. But realistically speaking, we have to work with who wants to come here and, who we can woo. And, if he hits most of the boxes, and I think he would probably be pretty good here. It would be at least better than Gonzalo Pineda, I think. And that's an improvement. Maybe I would estimate him probably around Frank de Boer levels of success, which was not bad. So I would be okay with that all in all. But again, take my word with some salt, because I don't really know the guy very well. And only from what I know from New York City, he took that lowly team into the fairly competitive area. So if he can take us there too, I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that lowly. I would say that NYCFC team, they did have some talent, and it was, a little bit right before, that he left, that they won MLS Cup, albeit, kind of during COVID and whatnot. But still, either way, Vieira, I think we could do a lot worse. I think we can try to do better. But it is, yes, we're at a level right now that, yes, we just need to raise the floor. And if, it is somebody that's, is, I think, has the pedigree in this league to at least know what MLS is all about and can coach in this league, and then has the world experience too, I think it's, probably a pretty good move. There is a
better
point
than
that
getting a rookie coach.
Yeah, there is that. I think what's interesting that you mentioned is, players that they're like, oh, I loved Arsenal growing up or whatnot. I mean, yeah, I think if they're over 30, probably, they probably watched Patrick Vieira. But if they're under 30 or they're a teenager, they have no idea who he is. They probably only, have seen video or, clips of him. Because, yeah, if they're around 20 or so, I mean, yeah, he pretty much left Arsenal in the mid-2000s. So, 2006, if I'm correct. So, it's, yeah, most of the people that are born around then have no freaking idea. But either way, he still has that name. He still is someone that I believe has pull. Even if it's not in the grand scheme where it's, the very best players, but still, it's it is a coach that I think I would welcome for sure.
Yeah,
But
we need someone with some kind of pull. Like, I'm just, my thing is this: I just want to hire people onto the team that eliminate excuses for us not being good in a very empirical way.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we get a coach who has fairly decent international pull, we can eliminate the excuse of no, like, you know, high level players don't want to come here because, you know, they're not interested in the pedigree of the coach that we have. Like, we can eliminate that, and then we can move on to the next excuse or the other thing, and then we can try and cut the fat away like that. But, you know, when you leave the questions open and you have so many of them and you're not eliminating them, and it's just like, I don't know what, there's so many potential issues causing all this, or confluence of all of them together, that it's just, it's a lot of fans are like pointing to like 8 different things. You know, they got all the like the ropes up on the cork board going like, you know, the conspiracy guy meme. So it just would be a step in the right direction to try and figure out the ailments of this club.
Yeah. And yeah, so in this same article, in that Fox Sports article, yes, there was a link to the U.S. men's national team for Patrick Vieira, but also the U.S. men's national team and Maurizio Pochettino. And it seems like, yeah, that is about to happen. We're recording this on a Wednesday night for transparency, and it seems like that announcement for Pochettino to the U.S. men's national team is imminent. So definitely, you know, a coach that has pretty good pedigree and would transform the U.S. men's national team for sure, even if he is a former Spurs head coach. But yep, either way, it's a needle mover, and I think a lot of people are rightfully excited if this does happen. But
anything better than Greg Berhalter, in my opinion. So.
Well, no, not anything, but there are a lot better. Yes. So yeah, yeah. Next bit of news and last bit of news: Atlanta United 2, they secured their 3rd straight win with a 2-1 triumph over Toronto FC 2. On Sunday at Fifth Third Stadium, and 17-year-old Caden Moore scored his first professional goal, and forward Rodrigo Neri, he also netted his the second half winner, the 3rd goal in 4 matches. So both new boys in terms of the sense of Neri, he got a brace last match, and Moore, he just signed a homegrown contract. Yeah, congrats to them both. But
yeah, sounds like the real deal.
Indeed. So yeah, definitely some talent at the twos right now, doing some bits. So yeah, that does it for the news, and it gets us to the mailbag. And you guys asked these questions and sent these questions in through IG Story and Discord, and please continue to do so. We might answer your question in the future. Got a ton to go through, so we unfortunately can't answer all of them. But first question comes from Ethan at United 17s. Do you think having a solid core group of DP lights, quote unquote, is worth being unable to sign a true 3rd DP, real star player for 1.5 years?
No, I think we should have. I mean, if we can, I would think we should go with the 3 DP, true DPs, than the DP lights. I think that putting more players, you know, having more players in that DP light spot increases your odds of making a mistake in getting one of those players. Like, one of them could be a bust, more likely if you have 4 versus going with 3. So I think that if you go for 3, you know, you can hopefully nail all 3 of those signings. When you go for 4 DP lights, it's like some of those maybe are not gonna come home to roost, and we've seen too many times already where we've gone after players who perhaps are like on that DP like kind of build and they just don't do well. We've also seen it with DPs, but that's another story. So I think we should go with the 3 and not the light. But again, and this kind of like goes back to what we were talking about earlier, it's a bit of like a banal explanation for what's going on, like business wise and everything. I think it's a lot of us being hamstringed and unable to operate the way we kind of want to because of these conditions. So hopefully next year, and like Garf said, 2 windows, saddle up again, guys. I think maybe we'll have the kind of team and hopefully the 3 that we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like DP lights, I feel like that aspect is important. That, okay, if there's enough talent spread across with depth, that is a good thing. But it looks like because obviously with Miranchuk, he is a top end DP, and so you do have probably at least one more spot for another player that can be a more top end. And I think in this day and age, in this era where we've gone back to MLS 2.0, where it's all about the big name, there is something about putting fans in the seats, which they sorely need right now. And you're gonna have to do that with a top end DP where it's a name, at least somebody that can move a needle and get people in seats. And so unfortunately I think it's about that. And maybe in spite of that, absolutely go for players that can help you win now. And I mean, I don't know, I think it's, as far as the strategy, I can see it working both ways, where if we have 4 DP lights or if it's 3 top end DPs. But I think my preference,
if you get the right people, sure,
right. But yeah, I know our track record is spotty, at least in the past 5 years.
I'm just saying you limit the slots, the valuable slots to only 3 versus 4. I think you should have less chance of screwing up, essentially.
Yeah, the sure things are definitely the things that we should go for. But in this league, the sure thing is a little bit difficult to tell, per se, for each time we do it. And I think at the very least, the strategy of going with a young South American, that's probably out the window now. So, but next question comes from Somir with 13 in the middle. Are the fans delusional, or is the front office great at playing trickery to make this club seem bigger than it is?
Well, make this club seem bigger. I mean, the club is big, but yeah, like relatively speaking, it's big in MLS. For the various metrics that makes it big. Results obviously notwithstanding, but like, yeah, it's, I mean, for the most part, it's a big club, definitely in MLS, in the northwestern hemisphere of the world. It's kind of big, but outside of that, not really. So relatively speaking, not really. So if you're the type of fan who thinks, oh, why aren't we getting X, Y, and Z top striker from X, Y, and Z top team? Like, it's just not really gonna be realistic. We don't have that kind of pull. Even if we got another like Tata Martino, like, yeah, they got, Miami got Messi and everything, but like, that's a very special situation that Atlanta is just not going to be able to replicate. So we just have to be more realistic. Now, does that look like Miranchuk or something, a Miranchuk level number 9 DP as well? I don't know, and that's kind of the question, and we'll see how that plays out. Like what AJ was saying, do we go with the more high-end, big name? I think we should. I'm surprised we didn't with the 10, honestly, but it is what it is. We're on the war chest of 50-some million dollars, and we should be kind of flaunting it and spending it, but $10 million, $10 to $15 million number 10, okay, we'll see how it goes. I guess maybe for a big, quote-unquote, big club in this league, we're slightly moneyballing things, which is slightly concerning and weird. But hey, if you're Garth and you can deliver a championship level team for like on a discount, I mean, Arthur Bland's going to be like, sign me up. I love this guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. There is, okay, so to speak on the delusion or if it's, the trickery, I mean, yeah, there is a little bit of delusion within the fan base, I think, as far as, kind of people that are maybe all in on every signing that we make and that, Boca's never done anything wrong or, should be kind of alleviated on the pressure that he feels from some of the fan base. I disagree with that, but you guys are all welcome to kind of have your own opinions and thoughts. But the front office, great at trickery. Yeah, they are. There's definitely people that buy into all of it. As far as it's just like, especially with Darren Eales at the helm, he was definitely a great salesman and marketer. And, I think maybe less so in the sense that, I think Garth Lagerwey maybe isn't as slick as Eales is, but he definitely maybe is a little bit more shrewd. And, we'll try to kind of make the efficiencies and the corporateness of synergy. I think that bit is definitely what he's probably a little bit more about. But, as far as this club being bigger than it is or whatnot, I think it is this. Atlanta United, our valuation as a club, maybe not after the sales of, Giacomakis and Almada, but still very high within the world scheme. It's buoyed by how many fans go to each game. And yeah, I think we, as a club, need to make way roads to make sure that we return to those standards that we've set, because it is a very dangerous slope that we're riding on right now. And it's, if fans go, then it's going to be more difficult for, the rest of the business to be able to exceed expectations. Because right now, we are underperforming expectations heavily in so many aspects. So, but next question comes from Indomitable17. Any estimates of percentages of people who renewed? Incredibly difficult to tell because we don't have the stats in front of us, nor will they ever really present that, I think, especially in a downturn. Not sure. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Michael, he's got Lagerway on speed dial. Oh no, Garth. He's got Garth.
It's Garth
first name
to
basis.
me because we're on first name basis. He told me he told me to lose his number immediately or he's gonna press charges. So
Yep. That makes sense. Yep. But so I mean, as far as renewal, I mean, it doesn't seem maybe super high from the people that were most vocal about it. There are some people that are still renewing. I'm still obviously going to renew, but it is still like, it's difficult. I mean, it's not exactly.
I think they're going to take a hit that will be noticeable. Will it be noticeable enough for them to adjust what their behavior is? I don't know. I don't know that we can know that, but right. My gut tells me that there will be a blip on the radar, which is something, and they'll notice it. So whether or not they do anything about it, I don't know. But I think there will be a blip at least.
Right. And I think it's this. Leagues Cup, when I went to the match, the staffing around the stadium was definitely a lot less. So they knew that there weren't going to be a lot of people there. And so they know ahead of time what the anticipation is. And I think you can also tell by how much of a kind of a front press that they do in terms of pretty much advertising on Instagram, advertising on various social media. Hey, come to games. Like, definitely, they didn't have to do this back then as heavily as they are right now. and it's so interesting. It's so interesting to see, because that's truly kind of what the crux of the problem is. It's like, hey, if you put a good product on the pitch, you don't have to market as hard. You don't have to, spend those marketing dollars like that. The word of mouth is going to sell itself. But, yep. Next question comes from Jennifer 5 Takes. Why are we putting all this pressure on the club to sign folks when they may or may not be a fit with new managerial styles? I get what Garth said, don't buy it, but for real, what was another signing going to do to salvage this dumpster fire of a season?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if they went with the loan, I wouldn't be opposed to it, because it's not really like, a handcuffing signing that slogs you with a long contract that perhaps gets in odds with the next coach that comes in. So it's just unfortunate. It seems to be that that's just not going to happen. There seems to be no signing that's going to happen, loan or otherwise. So it's going to be Rios ball going forward, and hopefully he can get on the end of what Marinchuk is cooking. So, yeah, I mean, it's the chicken or the egg kind of thing. Like, do you have a style, and do you want to set the style and set the roster and kind of build it the way you want before the coach gets here? Or do you want the coach to get here and then kind of influence the way things go? I would want it to be more with the coach, being in the kitchen, helping with this recipe, but it seems as though that's not necessarily how Atlanta United wants to play it. So, I'm with Jennifer. I think you probably should wait as much as possible, so when you get the coach in, he can affect some of the roster, and I'm hoping that's kind of what they're doing with holding off with the number 9. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to answer her question directly on it, it's this. They need to, and they didn't, but they need to make the moves for this season ticket renewals. And, they didn't. I think we're going to see the repercussions. But, that's why there was all the pressure. Because...
But AJ, we're back, baby. Didn't you hear?
Oh, exactly. So,
Maranchuk doesn't get you hyped?
Right. Yeah, it's that's all we need is just to believe the hype from what the front office is selling us. So.
To be fair to him, AJ said he could be a club legend. Who knows? But I'm just saying, it's not as if Maranchuk coming in is bringing in. It's not like all the other teams in MLS are going, oh crap, they signed Maranchuk, we're in trouble now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ATL guy asked a pretty similar question. Why do we not have a plan or direction? Or it seems like we don't have these hurried signings. It hasn't gone well in the past. How do we fix it? Or do we just rebuild with some of the academy kids when ready?
Why don't you take this one, and I'll try and follow.
You can ruminate. Yeah. I mean, rebuilding with the academy kids. I mean, it is not wise, I feel like, in MLS to rebuild with the academy kids. The academy kids are definitely a step below, unfortunately, the level that's required to win in this league. And our academy, while churning out some good talent, the product on the pitch will tear these kids' psyches apart. And I think that's detrimental to a degree. And as far as how we fix it, it's by I mean, a lot of things, but I think there's some moves up top that can be made to definitely get some better football minds in Atlanta United, and more of those type of football minds that have done it at a really high level. I think that's really where, if we can find those inefficiencies, possibly per se, it's like, hey, those technical directors that maybe their situation at the club that they're at is tenuous, or they're looking for, a little bit more of a situation where they have more money to play with, or around the league, poach some of the best minds, like we have possibly with Lagerwey, apparently, anyway. I think there is that level that we need to really see and headhunt in that way. But yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, to the first part of his question about why do we seem to have no plan? Yeah, It's a good question. I sincerely believe that there was a plan when Garth started his campaign about rah, 2024 and onwards. I think that they had a roadmap and a North Star, and they were diligently in pursuit of it when, like the Titanic, they stumbled upon an iceberg, I think. And things happened that they did not expect and see. And like I've said on this show before, and I'll say it again, it really kind of struck me in one of the press conferences with Garth Lager where he said he didn't see this stuff coming. Like with our offense in the beginning of 24 being unable to score when the latter of 2023 we were scoring like crazy, and it was the defense that was the problem. So what do? We shore up the defense. 2024 defense is fine. Now offense stinks. We have the same what is going on? He didn't see that coming. He didn't understand what the chemistry or the breakdown of communication or what have you, the coaching, what is it? Who knows what the problem was at the time, and Garth didn't see it. So that concerned me greatly that he didn't see that coming, because if he doesn't see that coming, in my mind, what else is he not seeing coming? So, while it's good to have a plan, if another iceberg comes, that could be, we could be looking at the exact same situation again.
Yeah, how do we prevent the Titanic from happening again? That's really the question. And because we've seen this movie again, like I've said before. And there's a reason why there wasn't a sequel to Titanic. Yep, I went there. But too soon? Yeah, too soon. But next question comes from Ash Tubin? Yeah, Ash Tubin. Or Astubin? There we go. Do you think management knows their fan base is dissolving before their eyes? What a question. I mean, I think they're seeing warning signs. I think they're, if they aren't, I hope that somebody is, within each club, there's always, the communications team that they have their finger on the pulse of what the fans are saying and what, journalists are saying and all that. And they kind of ready the head coach or whomever that's going to speak with the media to kind of prep them and kind of, talking them through what the talking points might be to prepare them to be asked certain questions. Obviously, in Atlanta, it's not really that scathing. It's, the hard journalists aren't aplenty here, I would say. But, still, I think there is the finger on the pulse. And hopefully that thing is getting up there to the front office. And I think, with the level of emptiness in the stadium, they're aware. But it's
you're right. They see signs. There's signs. I mean, the protest, earlier this season was a sign, and now they heard that. It went loud and clear to them. They even put out an amendment and some added benefits to the season ticket holders. That, some people call it a Pyrrhic victory, and that's fine. Whatever, you can have your opinion about it. But at least it is it's them recognizing that we're saying stuff, that the fans are saying stuff, and they're hearing it. I mean, just at the very least, we talk about it, ad nauseum sometimes on this channel, on our social media platform, and a lot of the other media platforms that, cover the team, they talk about it too. But we know for us specifically that they do pay attention to sometimes what we say, and they watch what we put out. So, they are hearing it. They know. And what I said about there being a blip on the radar in terms of, a drop in season ticket holder numbers, that blip is going to sound at least like a fairly loud warning sound alarm to them. And so hopefully that, in combination with, things like the protest, what we say on the social media, what other people say on social media, and I don't know, probably some other things that are going around that, that's more internal club things. All of that's probably culminating in a bit of a fire under their butts. And I think that, they're gonna come out with a good plan to try and win fans back in 2025. I really do believe they will try to do something pretty impressive. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I think that, like everyone else does, they have a lot of goodwill to earn back, and I think they're going to try and do that. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the excitement of a new season and all that that does bring back a lot of people, but you have to figure out how to keep them interested, keep them engaged throughout, a long season. And ultimately, yeah, it is that they have a lot of way roads to make it where fans can trust in the ones that are in charge again, because right now it's just not. I think by the day, especially with this transfer window, it is not a plenty. So.
Yeah, and I mean, just to put a bow on it, I mean, it's at this point, it's pretty obvious to me, and I think for a lot of people, that this season's a bit of a punt, which is unfortunate, especially after the end of the transfer window, resulting in practically no reinforcements that can, aid in the attack, except for Moranchuk, which we kind of knew about for a while. So it's. I mean, we talked about, he was like, yeah, we're going to get a number 9. We're going to get, perhaps even we'll get like another high level winger or something. And everyone's sitting there going, oh, okay. All right. I like what he's saying. This sounds interesting. None of it materialized.
Mm-hmm. I think he realized the market was definitely very difficult to navigate in, at least for kind of what we were trying to do and convince players of. But it is also this. It's if not this window, obviously summer windows are easier to do some of the business, especially if you're shopping in Europe. Well, yeah, if you're waiting until the winter window, it will up the difficulty even more, and you may have to pay even more for those fees. So, yeah, it'll definitely be interesting.
Question to you. I don't know if this is completely off the reservation or what have you, but... are we a bit of a pariah club right now? I've been asking this to some people, and their answers have been kind of interesting. Players talk. Word gets around about the intricacies and the inner workings of clubs and, their organization from top down, what it's like to be there. Yeah, we have world-renowned facilities. We have amazing, people, employees that work at our, the training grounds and other places. But is it possible? One explanation is that when people inquire about Atlanta United, they don't hear great things by perhaps some of their peers or, in other kinds of research that they do with their agents and things like that. Like, is there some kind of bad, like, miasma around us that, aside from obviously, we're not doing great in the standings, that can be a lot of teams that can still be very attractive to go to. But could it be other things that are putting people off? I honestly, I have nothing to base that on. I'm just speculating that, that could potentially be a thing that I have no idea how to measure or to understand. But man, if that would be an issue, like, that's really hard to get that type of, marker off of you, internationally speaking.
Yeah. I mean, to theorize, possibly. I mean, I think there is a sense that, maybe not with the U.S. National or international type of players, or just players born in the U.S., but definitely, probably, maybe a South American or, in those regards, that those type of players have been a little bit maybe miffed at the way they were unceremoniously just booted from the team a little bit, and from the whispers, player to player, they're all part of the same MLSPA, and they definitely talk after games, and I'm pretty sure some of the conversations are like, oh, how's it going in the town that you're playing at right now, and how's life? And I'm sure they're going to be pretty transparent and pretty real about what's going on. And yeah, the very fact of it is that yes, players will talk to each other. They will, you know, kind of get a lay of the land before they go to a place. And yeah, if they're saying like, oh yeah, you know, it's like the fans are great, the stadium's great, you know, but yeah, that dude in the front office, you know, if he doesn't want you, he's not gonna treat you great. He might not even tell you before, you know, you find out in the media that you're gone. You know, stuff like that. Man, I don't know. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
that's.
I mean, yeah, it's. I don't think it's like kind of like specifically that, but like, yeah, I something like that. Like, I mean, it would crush some optimism that I would have to learn, like, you know, comes out. I don't know. Felipe Cardenas loves writing his articles. Maybe he comes out with an article that says like, you know, oh, it turns out when players in Europe hear Atlanta United, they're like, oh, that club. I heard that club. You know, that the organization's got like their head up their butt or something. Like, it's like, where did that come from? Why are you getting that? Like, is there some kind of, I don't know. It's just, that's just the theory. Who knows if it has any legs whatsoever. I just am postulating concepts and ideas of why.
Right.
Perhaps, you know, we're a big club, relatively speaking, and we shouldn't have this much trouble getting people in the door and pay them through the teeth to play soccer at a amazing stadium and amazing fan base. So
Right.
it's difficult sometimes.
But I think it's also this, and I think we have to realize we're at one of the lowest points for the club, and you know, not only with you know, kind of the player turnover, head coach turnover, but also fan turnover. And so yeah, the players are going to do their research, and agents are going to as well, to help them out, to show them what is the lay of the land. And right now, yeah, I can see why we might have some difficulty. There are a number of things that we can pontificate are reasons. And we could do that until we're blue in the face. But yeah, we have to end this podcast, and it's getting late. So yes, definitely, that is the last question for the mailbag. Thank you guys for sending in those questions. Yeah, we might answer your question in the future. So
It's an interesting time, so I'm glad to have these questions.
Indeed. So yeah, that pretty much is the episode, except for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, what did you think of this transfer window? And is it going to keep us moving forward, in your opinion? Let us know in the comments below. But guys, that is it. That's the episode there and there. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's been Michael. I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.